No, you may not have been here when there was harsh Jim Crow laws, but you're here now. And the question is, do you let that toxicity affect our neighborhoods, or do you have an obligation to repair past harm? We can go the landscape across America. And in fact, we all know that some of the bills that the president is issuing to kind of knit together and connect neighborhoods destroyed by highways and urban renewal. For example, Mallory is in Detroit. Black Bottom in the Detroit neighborhood was destroyed to make way for the I-75 and the I-375 corridor. These were thriving Black communities that were destroyed by highways and urban renewal plans, something the Congress for New Urbanism has at the top of their list of priority to help stitch not just the urban fabric, but these neighborhoods together. When I taught school, graduate school in New York City, almost every student, when it was time to do their paper, wanted to talk about the Cross Bronx Expressway. Robert Moses' way of moving traffic through New York City, but literally destroyed neighborhoods. Till this day, there are families that talk about how this destroyed their lives by just taking away buildings, the livelihood, the culture, what people knew and where they played in the street. There is still effects today. And to go further, and I was very intrigued as Rob posted or CNU posted this presentation, my good friend Joe Menicosi, who I'm sure you all know, is doing a lot of research on this wealth gap. And he shared with me some slides about the lost wealth in a lot of places in South Carolina and North Carolina. But this whole thing about the 40 acres to the mule, which was a way of, I guess, attempt to address reparations, uh, that was overturned some years later. But to think about the value of the 40 acres and the mule had it continued, uh, this would have enriched those homeowners $640 billion today. That's the wealth that was lost from those 40,000 freed slaves because their property was taken back and given to others. In fact, and this is from Bloomberg News, slaves or enslaved people lost an estimated 20.3 trillion, not billion, $1 trillion in lost wages for their labor. So this country was built on $20 trillion of free labor. That is devastating harm, and we have to be sensitive to that. And then Brookings Institute did a study, and they estimated Black-owned homes are undervalued by 23% for a total of 156 billion of lost wealth in the United States. And Joe is doing it city by city or town by town. So again, reach out to him if you want to find out more about his work. The United States have really struggled to deal with this issue of past harm, particularly when it comes to Black Americans. H.R. 40 was first introduced in Congress in 1989 and proposes to create a federal commission just to study reparations and recommend some remedies. And in the 117 Congress, that was the last one, introduced the bill again in 2019. It failed. And so that one bill just to study the impact of past harm has been stalled for 30 years. Love my new urbanist colleagues, and we have this big debate about sprawl. Yes, sprawl harm is harmful, but it's a development pattern. I'm looking more at the harm, the lost wealth, these amazing, beautiful neighborhoods that were wiped away because we had to have a highway. It's not just stitching, creating a boulevard from what a highway is. It's about what about the culture, the wealth, the activities. We have projects all over the country, from Indiana to Detroit, that's not just trying to stitch the urban fabric together, but trying to stitch the soul of community back together.
Yeah. Well, so that's going to lead me to another question that I have here in Detroit, as you mentioned. The along with the Better Cities Film Festival, which is happening here this weekend, which is why I'm here, in conjunction with CNU Michigan and a whole lot of CNU affiliate organizations and action groups. And so there's going to be a number of panel discussions associated with films. And one of those is, I was just this morning talking with your CNU 31 co-presenter, Marcus King, another CNU board member who's here in Detroit. And he's going to be on a panel talking about the discussion around, as you brought up, Interstate 375 and the removal of that interstate, that urban renewal project that massively separated portions of the city. And I wonder, CNU has had 8 publications of the Freeways Without Features reports, which are great in elevating the need, the need in local communities to remove these urban freeways, these urban highways that have had such and continue to have such devastating consequences for the communities. But I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, that idea of expanding our scope, that it isn't just about taking the monstrosity out. It's about the work that then comes on the other side of that to bring the communities to truly restore the communities that were damaged. And these are social issues, they're physical design challenges, they are policy issues. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, when you look at these sorts of projects, what you're looking for as key indicators of going beyond just the removal of the infrastructure that was problematic.
Yeah, number one, I don't want to put all the pressure on planners and designers. We have to have a multidisciplinary team. There are those out there, my good friend in Canada, Jay Pitter, that just did the Little Jamaica Cultural District. You got to reach out to the storytellers, Dr. Andrew Roberts, who did the Texas Colony Project, that know this work. And as we do this work, we have to bring in those. And in some cases, you need to bring in a therapist because some of these conversations are quite painful. And the ability to talk about some of the past harm and those that help us heal. That is all part of the growth process, the rebuilding process. So look, we're talented planners and designers, but we have to start reaching out to those other professionals that will really understand what is going on. I often say, I remember after Black Lives Matter, all my allies saying, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And I'm like saying, can you stop for a second? The first question you should ask is, how do I feel? And asking, how do I feel, with empathy, starts to understand what is the design process? What do we have to do? As planners, we seem to have all these, bike lanes and this and that. We have all the tools that we could put in place, but are we listening first? And what's right for this community? What may happen in Kansas City may be different than Detroit, may be different than Oklahoma City. And so it has to be local. You need to have a multidisciplinary team, but there has to be a healing process, not just to heal the fabric, but also to heal the community. And so to me, that's something I would recommend. Make sure you have a multidisciplinary team that understands past harm and how do you plan a way forward.